to Unstuck and Alive. I'm Todd Pinkston.
And I'm Stephen Nooner.
We have watched it happen.
Fear gives way to faith.
Isolation melts into belonging.
The stuck places break open and life begins to flow again.
On this show, we sit around the fire, so to speak, and listen to the real stories of everyday heroes.
Men and women who have found freedom and stepped into the unforced purpose they were made for.
If you're tired of striving, if you're longing to breathe deep, break free, and come alive again, then you're in the right spot. This is Unstuck and Alive. Let's go.
Hey guys, welcome back to Unstuck and Alive, where we like to get together around the proverbial fire pit and have great conversations with people that you just need to know, that whose stories just need to be told. And today we've got a really special friend who has had maybe the disprivilege of knowing me since we were about 15 years old. But really a spiritual giant and hero in my life. And so I'm really excited to introduce my friend. We called him Nod Narp Eel. He also has gone by aliases known as Lumpy, but he is known as Brandon Lee professionally. He's also the founder of a really cool nonprofit. I'm going to let him tell you about that. He's a wonderful husband to a beautiful bride, Cassie, married way out of his league, and he's got 3 beautiful daughters to prove it. And so Brandon, welcome to Unstuck and Alive.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure just to be here. That's a humbling intro. I appreciate it.
Well,
yeah, the nonprofit I run is a youth service nonprofit. There's a lot to say about that. Tip of the iceberg, though, is we look to serve the local youth in our area through the vehicle of BMX bicycles. So we grew up riding bikes, and we forged a lot of friendships and learned a lot of practical skills along the way. Sometimes how to bandage up wounds and how to get each other to the hospital without our parents knowing. But
good skill to have.
There's just a lot there, and so there's deep waters in BMX, and I've had my foot in that since Steve and I were teenagers. So I see a lot of benefit, a lot of life in that. A lot of kids need a little bit of guidance and just some help along the way, and we experienced that growing up, so looking to give that back to the community.
Yeah. Well, if you would, I'd love it, just for the sake of where all the many directions this conversation go. I'd love if you would just share some of your story and just some of the things that have shaped you, that maybe when people meet Brandon Lee with the cool long hair and a cool trucker cap or whatever, don't know about you.
Well, I mean, it just depends how far back you want to go. You can start from the beginning.
Ones that shaped the most. Let's go from the ones that shaped. Let's hit the highlights of the most impactful.
Sure. So born in 1976 to Gene and Barbara Lee in Redwood City, California. Growing up in Texas, that's not something you really want to divulge to too many people, that you were born in California or that you spent any time there. So interesting story there too. They met working at the commercial airlines. They both worked for United in the 60s into the 70s. So I have an older brother, 2.5 years older. His name's John. And through the course of events, my father passed away when I was 16 months old. So born in 76, father passed away in 78. My mom had a older sister who lived in Dallas. And so course of events, we moved from Redwood City, San Francisco area, to Dallas in 78. I grew up there for about 5 or 6 years before we moved to Plano, Texas, and started public school in Plano, 3rd grade. And 3rd grade's where him, Stephen Todd Kowaleski. I met him and in 3rd grade, and he was passing out flyers for the BMX track. And that was something that just piqued my interest, and I was really excited about it. So we went and checked it out, and I was hooked like immediately. Just people riding bikes and jumping and getting air and doing all the things. And so, two things that impacted my life, but the BMX was the one that impacted me in a significant way to where I understood it, mostly because my father passed away so young. I didn't know what I didn't know. And so, I wrestle with different aspects of that, throughout my life, but grew up in Plano, and we ended up moving to Allen before my junior year. And so my mom bought a house that was like 100 years old, and we were going to fix it up. So you can understand a lot about me just knowing that about my mom. Like, she's just has an idea to do something, and she just goes and does it, maybe not all the way thought out, but still a good idea. Like, that's a lot of who I am. So I graduated from Allen High School. We didn't know what to do about college, so I ended up going to a one-year Bible college. It's in Estes Park, Colorado. Not the worst place to spend a year. So I was in Estes Park for a year with Bible college. It was one of those times where you could just shore up my faith, make it my own, make sure it wasn't something I just inherited from my family. And I'll back up a little bit just to say, when I was baptized in like second grade, which was important, but still one of those things I don't remember so much. The year after high school at Ravencrest in Colorado was more poignant, where it was something that was my own, and I was able to understand it and live it out a little bit more. And I came home from Colorado and told my mom I wanted to move to California to make surfboards. So, just lots of randomness in my life. But it's just part of being a creative and artistic kind of guy. So I moved to California. Actually, came home from Colorado that summer of 96, and told my mom I was going to move to California to make surfboards. She thought I was crazy, but she believed me because I started selling all my stuff and going to the pawn shop and getting rid of stuff to make money. So I ended up in California. Did end up learning how to make surfboards. There's a season of my life where I walked away from God, probably 98. So 98 to 2000, well, probably 99 to 2001.
Say more about that, Brandon.
Growing up in the church, gone to Bible college, walking away from the Lord didn't seem like that was on my to-do list. But, just gotten disenchanted with some people in the church, and, that's what happens. Like, it's not the message so much, it's the people that are immediately around you that just irritate you or do things that you don't like, and you're just like, fine, screw it, I'm just going to leave. And I was just circumstantially, I was in a spot where that was what was going to happen. So I walked away from the church, stopped going, just going to live my own life. And so the next 3 years were, whatever I wanted to do, I did it. And, that's I think that's freedom, but there's a lot of pain associated with that, pain that I wouldn't have walked through otherwise. But experientially, like, pain is a forge that makes some good stuff on the other end. But like, going through it, man, I had a couple health issues that came through those times, like a constricted hernia that like almost put me down, that I had emergency surgery for. And the next year I was living in Lake Tahoe with a girlfriend, and, I was doing snowmaking at the ski resort, and we were, riding snowmobiles up and down the mountain at 11:30 at night. And I got off on the wrong trail coming down. Thought I was on a green. Didn't know the trails well enough. I ended up on a blue that made this big sweeping turn to the right that I couldn't slow down for. Last thing I thought of, the last thing on my mind was to jump off. So I stayed on and hit a snow fence at 30 miles an hour, broke my hand, broke a bunch of ribs, shattered my spleen. Lucky that there was a snowcat there that was helping us work that night, because they had to come get me, take me down, call the ambulance, basically emergency surgery to remove my spleen. So, there's a couple of things, you just like laying in the hospital. We were making snow, waiting for the snow to come. And sure enough, as I'm sitting in the hospital, snow starts stacking. Like, we had a couple of storms come through. And it was like, now I'm laid up and I can't go ride because the choices I made. And so I heard the voice of God say, hey man, you done yet? So It's just like, well, I think I'm done. So, it's not an immediate turnaround that's clean. You gotta live through the messy circumstances and, consequences. So, it was a couple of years before I was back on a even plane where like I even could trust the people around me,
And Brandon,
Yeah.
before we talk about the out, okay, I just want to go just a layer deeper, and I appreciate your authenticity and generosity here. So, backstory: I was not a believer when Brandon and I met. We were teenagers. Okay, I was starting my path of being actually like I was already far away from God. Going super far away from God was my pathway after actually Brandon and I stopped hanging out. But I remember when I became a Christ follower and I experienced the Holy Spirit, I often started having these memories of my past that were being transformed. And one of the memories that often came up was of Brandon. And so I didn't know, but as a new Christ follower, a baby believer in my 20s, I would look back and I would say, man, I wonder if Brandon was a believer. There was just something different about him. I knew it even as a kid. I was almost unconscious to it. But the way that Brandon showed up, the way that he was comfortable in his own skin, he was Godfident, for lack of a better word, like around us. There was just something about him that when we reconnected in our 20s, or well, much later. So when I became a believer in my 20s, I wondered, man, he must be a Christ follower. And then fast forward, when we actually reconnected during COVID, first question I asked him out of my mouth when we reconnected was, were you a believer? And he's like, yes. So to hear like truly one of the people that I would say was seed watered to push me towards Jesus, walk away from Christ. I would love to hear just a little bit for anyone listening. It's like, what would be like what were the signal, what were the signs that you were about to push away?
Good question.
I don't know. Like, there's a part of me that thinks that season just had to happen. Like, would I go back and do it again? No. Would I change it? I mean, it's painful, but it's it's part of who I am. It's like Peter's denial of Christ. Like, would he have become the preacher and the man of God that he was if he hadn't have denied Christ? Like that pivotal moment in his life like changed everything, and it was super painful, right? Just like how much doubt and fear and just like remorse did he have to have for that? It's like, I don't know. Sometimes I think we just got to find the bottom, and sometimes the bottom's deeper than for others. And, like, sure, I want to avoid pain, but some things you can't learn without going through pain.
Brandon, if you
So
look
I don't know.
back,
I mean,
you said it wasn't so much the message; it was the people that kind of turned you off, and fine, I'll go somewhere else. But still, there's something internally that's unsatisfied with with what you're getting from the church, from your faith. What do you feel like that was? And then, when you had that moment laying there and God said, "Are you done yet?" Like, what do you think when you came back? How were you looking at that different?
Can you repeat the last bit? You cut out just a little bit.
Yeah. So, what was unsatisfied? And then when God said, "Are you done yet?" and you kind of turned back, you come home. You had a prodigal, coming home to the Father. How were you looking at that different? How was your perspective different at the end of a season of rebellion?
Sure. I think I was just selfish to to be like unsatisfied. Like, the teaching was good. There was good fellowship, there was good people. I was just unsatisfied, like, and I was just selfish. Like, I wanted to do things my way. It wasn't necessarily that there was never a time through that season where I didn't know the truth. Like, the Holy Spirit never left me. Like, I just was trying my best to silence his voice as much as I could, like, just to try and do things what the way I wanted to do it. I think there was just a long seasons growing up where I was just more or less just a rule follower, and there was never a time where I just carte blanche just went out and did whatever I wanted to do. I think just there wasn't. It was more circumstantial, where everything has just lined up to where I was in a season where I was willing to do that. Like, I don't know, and it wasn't even. It was conscious, but not conscious, if that makes sense. Where if you would have asked me, like, what are you doing? Like, I don't know, just living my life. It wasn't that I was like, I'm consciously walking away from God. I didn't come to that until it was later, where I was able to say, like, I walked away from God. Like, that was obviously what it was. And then I think, like Solomon, like, he just got to the end of it all and was like, this is all vanity. Like, it's all pointless. It's all worthless. Like, the striving after the wind, all these things that you're searching for happiness or for just fulfillment. Like, it doesn't work because it's designed not to work. Like, the design of it all necessitates that you not only acknowledge the designer, but acknowledge that you've got a design in yourself. Like, we each have gifts and skill sets that are meant to be used in a certain way. And if you're using them the improper way, you'll never find satisfaction. I think there's just an understanding of that through the process, to where I was able to see experientially that I wasn't satisfied, and nor would I ever be, because I wasn't using my skills or talents or anything that God had given me in the way I was supposed to use it. And so therefore I was unsatisfied. Not only that, it was just self-destructive, right? So laying in that bed, like, what am I doing? Not only do I not have any joy in my life, like, I don't even trust the people around me, relationship problems where it's like, I don't trust anybody right now. I'm laying in a bed. My nearest family is like thousands of miles away. Like, I could die tonight and nobody would even know for 3 days. They wouldn't even know who to contact.
That's good. Thanks for sharing. So it's almost that idea of, like, the myth you felt like you were believing in 98 was there's something over there. Like, there's something else that's out there that I haven't experienced that's better than what I have. And what you feel like you realized in 2001 was, like, it's right here. It's the connection with God. It's a relationship with my Heavenly Father.
Yeah, the value is in that relationship, right? I was searching for value in other things. And it wasn't until I experienced those things through where I realized, like, the marketing material for those things is just a bunch of crap. Like, like, you read those glossy handouts about, like, hey, go to this vacation spot, it's the best. Like, it's the same thing. Like,
I just heard this. I just heard this quote. Actually, I don't know what the amount was, but it's insane. But you know what the number one ad expenditure in the world is?
mailers.
Well, what product is marketed the heaviest of all the other products in the world? You have a guess?
Skincare products.
I would have said makeup.
Debt.
Death or debt?
Debt.
Debt.
Debt. DEBT.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm.
The banks, credit cards.
That's cheating, because you can just get everything else with it,
It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
So what happens when you're in debt? Like, you become, in a way, you can become imprisoned, right?
Yeah.
So I just thought the irony of what you were just saying is, like, all those other things, whether fueled by debt or not, can become a form of a prison.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I mean, there's so much baggage that comes along with that, like, that trails after. Once you've gone through that, now you have all this, regret and remorse over, like, certain things, depending on, like, how far you've fallen, and, like, now you've made a turn, maybe turn to the Lord, but you've still got to deal with all the stuff that's coming along with it.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. So as you're moving into this new phase, of your walk?
Like after that or now?
Yeah, yeah. Well, kind of, I mean, just catch us up.
So my family had moved away from Texas in all different directions. My brother moved to Arizona before I moved to California, and then I moved to California, and then my mom, not to be undone, said, "Screw you guys, I'm going to move to Alaska." So she moved to Alaska in I think 98, 99. And so when I was going through all this in Tahoe, I called her and told her, and she's like, "Do you want me to come down there?" And I was like, "I don't think that's going to help at all." So once I got out of the hospital and started recovery, I think that was December of 2001. So I'm not going to try and figure out the time, so that's just going to take too much time. But I ended up with moving up to Alaska with my mom and my brother for 3 months, just to kind of clear my head and figure things out. My mom was doing a couple jobs. She was doing, sorry, old man brain. She was a janitor at her church, so I was helping her with that. And nothing's more humbling than vacuuming a congregation's floor every Monday. It's like those places are huge, man. So left there. Me and my brother figured we were going to do something with our lives because my brother was living with my mom and he wasn't doing anything. So we ended up deciding to go to Denver Automotive and Diesel College to learn about auto mechanics. So we ended up there, and we were there. I was only there for like 3 months before I realized like this isn't going to work financially. So my brother stayed. I moved back to San Diego and slept on friends' couches for a while before I could get my feet underneath me. And then started working on cars, and did that for about 7 years. So 2000, well, a total of 7 years. 2005 is when I met my wife, Cassie, and we dated for a couple of years and got married in 2007. And then we started a family. Didn't want to raise our kids in California, so we moved to Texas in 2015. We found a house, bought our first house, this house that we're living in. It's on the market, and we found a church and been at the same church for 10 years. And a lot of that coming back to the Lord happened. I mean, his timing is perfect, but it happened one after another, all these things kind of falling into place before I met my wife. And, over this whole storyline too, there's I spoke earlier about the undercurrent of like losing my dad when I was young. But something that I didn't touch on that I'll circle back on that's been critical to understanding too, that's from youth to before I met my wife, since we're going that part of the story now. This is a critical part for this. But when I was in third, fourth grade, I was introduced to pornography. And so that changed my life in a way that not positive, but it introduced a whole another layer of complexity growing up that was just a distraction and something that, would, introduce doubts and pull me away from trusting God in certain ways. And that, was a strong pull and wrecked a good portion of my life, in different areas. And it wasn't until I got back to San Diego from Alaska and I was like, Lord, I'm just done with this. Like, I've tried to quit this many times and it's just wrecking me. It's like, Lord, just take this. I'm so done with this. And it wasn't that I said a prayer in a special way. Sometimes we look for the magic bullet for like, well, if I didn't get an answer in my prayer, I must not have said it right. So sometimes it's like I put the onus on me of like, well, I need to pray more or I need to pray a certain way or whatever. But it's like, because I prayed that prayer, tons of times, but the Lord finally took it away from me. And praise God that He gave me victory over that. And it was probably 5 to 6 months after that when I met my wife. So lots of timing involved with just God's plan. And I make the joke, even though it's pretty true, like I'm probably told Stephen this, but Todd, do you remember that TV show Get Smart back in the day?
Negative.
No. Well, it's an old kind of spy spoof comedy TV show where there's this guy who, like the opening credits, he pulls up to this building and he gets out and he walks into the front door. And then the opening credits is him just like walking down this hallway, not breaking stride at all, right? Pace after pace. And there's all these doors in front of him. Well, and they open like different ways too. It's like right as he's getting to the door, it opens and he walks through it without breaking stride and it closes right behind him, right? And he walks through, I don't know, 4, maybe 6 doors. And it's just like, this feels like my life. Like I'm walking and I see this door in front of me and it's closed. And I believe the Lord wants me to go that way. And it doesn't make any sense. So I keep walking. And sure enough, like right before I'm going to run into the door, it opens and I walk right through it and it closes right behind me. So it's like, there's so many examples of just like threading the needle in my life. And it's like, what? Like there's no way I could control any of this. Like I couldn't even set it up right to where I could walk through this door, or I've been like trying to like get over this thing, for 15 years. And finally like the door opens and I walk through it and like can have victory on the other side of it. So, and that continues to this day, like just meeting Stephen when I did or reconnecting. We tried to meet before. I think it was almost a year before. I don't even remember how we got into contact, whether I found his email through LinkedIn or something, or just like randomly reaching out to people. But like I get laid off and then he needs help. So like now I'm working with Stephen, and, in a vineyard as a believer. Working in a vineyard as a believer is quite the thing. So everybody should experience that to some degree. But so finally catching up, like we're in Texas now. It's 2015. We have a church. We have a house. That season was crazy. Talk about walking through doors that just barely like open right in time. The things they say are like the most stressful in life are starting a new job, moving, having a baby, and buying a house. Like those are 4 of the most stressful things you experience as an adult. Well, we did all 4 of those in the span of 6 months. Like my wife was like 7 months pregnant when we moved out of state for a different job and we bought a house. Like it's just so stressful. So that's a lot of where we are. Went on Way Forward trip 2 years in a row. So I haven't been for the last 2 years. I've developed adult asthma. So there's been a couple of years where I was like, and the months before trip was scheduled, I'm like waking up at 3 a.m, can't breathe. It's like, I can't do this at altitude. Like it's not gonna be good for anyone. So I missed the last couple. I was talking to Steven the other day. I'd like to try and get on trail again this year because the asthma is kind of leveled out, but it's been a really good experience.
Plan.
Yeah, right.
Vineyard training plan.
Yeah. Dude, I got those farm hand muscles, man. It's like a farmer workout for like a year and a half. Don't let the hair fool you.
Yeah, we recently had these young guys. We had a whole bunch of wine show up, and we got some extra help. These young guys come in, and it was Brandon schooled everybody. He was just freaking throwing cases of wine. These guys were so worn out so fast. Super grateful for their help. It was just funny because it was like they were all jacked and like perfect, 20-something-year-old bodies. And here's Brandon just, sorry, dude, old man strength, just like that's kicking everybody's butt. Yeah.
Yeah, those ranchers, man, they're gnarly.
Absolutely. Hey, Brandon. So you, one of the things you talked about back in that early 2000 season was, realizing life is found, and you made the statement like using my gifts.
Mm-hmm.
How have you found what you're gifted in, and what does it look like to put those to use?
Yeah,
sure.
Good question.
That's a good question. So in high school, I went was part of a youth group and realized that I love just kids, like not like kid, like the kids in the youth group, right? Like I was a kid, like I'm just as an adult, that sounds different, right? But I still feel like I'm 24 at heart and I'm like almost 50. So, language is different, but I always wanted to be a part of like a youth group, like serving or, just having that sense of community. So finding the giftings of like care and encouragement for like peers and people around me, like I believe I have the gift of encouragement, and I love to understand not just people, but like where they're coming from. And a lot of the life experience I have is in so many different areas that it makes the task, it's not even a task because I enjoy it, the task of understanding people and relating to them, like that's where I find joy. And I think the joy is there because it's part of my gifting. So fast forward, like being a father, like that's a huge deal for me because of my my upbringing. So, being a father now, our oldest is 15. It's like it's crazy to think that it's been that long, right? But being present, you know, taking the time to listen to my kids and understand where they're coming from and encourage them. Sometimes there's discipline involved, but like even in that, there's moments of like, hey, I understand where you're coming from, but this is the direction we need to go, or this is the change that needs to be made. And in the nonprofit, like there's just, we don't advertise this as part of the nonprofit, but like fatherlessness is everywhere, man. There's
Yeah.
so much of it. And there's just, it's as simple as kids that may even have a dad in the home that's just, maybe not even through any like malice. He's working 80 hours a week and is exhausted and just doesn't have time for himself to be on the right page, let alone like pour into his kids the way he'd love to. And even with that, like he may be fatherless. So like you've got these multiple generations of kids, whether they're 8 years old or 48 years old, that have no idea what it's like to have a father that cares about them or loves them, or anyone that's like asking them questions or caring about them or pouring into them. So the giftings like is where I'm at now, is I'm able to not only give back, but I have Stephen and I talked about this the other day, an inventory of experience and work related experience that I can draw from and, pour into other people now. And so like the giftings is more evident and there's more opportunity to use those giftings now.
Yeah. How have you learned how to be a dad coming out of a home that didn't have a dad? And you haven't just learned how to be a dad. I mean, it sounds like you take pride in how your father and your girls, you are, the nonprofit is a lot about investing in these kids. Like what does it look like if there's a guy out there that's 40 years old and looks around and realize my dad fell into that category you were just talking about, like he either physically wasn't there, he died, divorced, wasn't around, or just he was not present when he was present.
Mm-hmm.
What does it look like for a guy to realize that and become a dad, like redeem what was lost, change the next generation?
I think there, excuse me. I think there's just always been a strong desire to understand like what that relationship looks like. So strong that like I just became a student of observationally of like other families. Like I'm the youngest of our cousin group. I have four, or including my brother, four older, call them siblings. I have three older cousins. They're probably 10 or 12 years older than my brother and I. So I, not in a mean way, but I enjoyed learning from other people's mistakes. Like I'm not doing that. So if anything could save me like pain and turmoil and give me some time back, like I was all for it, which is ironic, given the season of turning my back on the Lord. But I think just being a student of what I would want that to look like. We grew up in the late 80s, early 90s, and I don't know if you ever went to Grandy's. There was this restaurant called Grandy's, and
Oh yeah.
They had Norman Rockwell posters all over the place. And so I was just like, in my mind, I was like, I'm living the white picket fence dream here, just Grandy's on Sunday, just delusional, like I just painted this picture of what I wanted a father to look like and just kind of became that, right? Well, and I mean, not to discount any of the life experience along the way, but like God has shaped me into that. Like that was my desire, but it's like, again, not of any of my own doing.
Yeah. That's good. And I think about that statement you made, or that you said it, that God said to you at the end of a season of rebellion, like just that picture of a patient father. Like, man, are you done yet? Like, I'm not going anywhere. Are you done
Yeah.
yet? I will be here whenever you're ready to come back, because life is not found somewhere else. It's found right here with me.
Yep.
That picture of the prodigal son for me, I just love it. And that statement that is made in Luke 15, I think it's 17, where it says, and he came to his senses. Like he realized, and what he realized was not, I'm out of money. He realized my dad is over there and I'm over here. Like presence of the one that I want to be with is not with me, and I'm going home.
Yeah.
And so just that picture of like, man, in your mind, that's who God is. Even though you started running after something else, the Father was patient, the Father was present, the Father was there. And when you realize that, like it just changes everything. Because then you see yourself as that son that's worth it. And although you didn't have an earthly father, you had a heavenly father. And man, now you get to be a representation of that to your kids, to all these other kids that are riding BMX bikes and you're pouring into. So that's awesome. I just think that's super encouraging for people that listen that, man, it doesn't, you can spend your whole life bitter. Like you could have been bitter your whole life that your dad died when you were 18 months old, but that wasn't it. It was that God wanted to use that as a part of your story to redeem, and then for you to pass that along. So, would you share more about kind of what you're doing with the nonprofit, the BMX bikes, like how you're taking a passion that you grew up with and pouring out? And are your girls a part of it? Is it guys in the neighborhood? Like, just tell more about kind of how you got that set up and how you're pouring into these kids.
Sure. So the idea is to have a vehicle to cultivate community, give a safe place for kids to learn like new skills on the bike and off the bike, and then prepare them for their future, like whether they decide to go to college or, there's a lot of kids that don't fit into that mold of like, I want to go to college. So what's available for those kids? There's not a whole lot. So like, VOTEC schools or skills unions or that sort of thing, like those are very specific, but there's not a place where they can go learn a little bit about everything, right? So in a nutshell, that's kind of the umbrella. I will say though, you mentioned asking about my girls. So before I started the nonprofit, I started a small family business, and that is meant to be the test bed for the nonprofit. So being a father at home and teaching my girls certain skills and that sort of thing, and community and how families interact and that sort of thing is what I'm doing in both businesses, right? So the family business is meant to be this nonprofit idea, but for my girls and our family as a sense of like ownership. And then if they want to do entrepreneurial type stuff, it's an entity that they can use to then, sell their wares or advertise or have a business already established. That if they have I don't know, as easy as like if they wanted to crochet some stuff and sell it at farmer's market, there's already an entity set up where they can have a booth and a logo and this thing that they can just go ahead and do that. So the nonprofit, it has multiple avenues of reaching different people. So there's definitely the kids in the east side of McKinney community, it's not impoverished, right? But it's not affluent, right? It's just a bunch of working class people that, may not have the means that other people have. And there's a lot of kids, there's a lot of single parents, there's a lot of just dysfunction in that neighborhood. There's no way for the kids to get to the skate park, right? There's no skate parks over there. There's nowhere to ride. You've just got a bunch of kids that if they're on bikes, they're just running through the streets like madmen, right? Through all hours of the night. There's lots of unsupervised, kids. It's almost like a Gen X rebirth over there. But the idea is to pour specifically into that neighborhood because it's just me doing most of this, right? I don't have a fleet of volunteers. I don't have a bunch of resources. So everything that I do is very specific to make the most impact on a few people, right? There's like more impact, less people. So I find bikes on Marketplace, good quality BMX bikes that are used. I refurbish them. I buy them through the nonprofit, and then I give them to the kids for free. And so there's a guy in Eastside who has a great story. His name's Jason Hernandez. Not a whole lot of time to go into that now, but he's doing a lot of good in the community as well. And so he has a corner store with like fresh fruits and vegetables and just kind of like a meeting place for the community. And so he's graciously allowed me to basically have a partnership with him. So on Thursdays, I will go over to his place and I'll bring a bunch of tools, and the kids, when they get out of school, they'll come by, and if they need help with their bikes, then I help them out free of charge. Need a tube, need a tire, need a new bike. Just build a relationship with those guys to know, guys and girls, just to know that I'm there. I'll be there every Thursday. If you need help with your bike, just show up. They're like, I'll help you as much as I can. If I don't have it this week, I'll bring it next week. Just show up. So that idea of the community is like reaching local kids in that area to do the most good with what I can. Now, those kids don't know anything about BMX. Like, they're getting introduced to it. Well, there's a greater group of kids, youth, adults in the Metroplex that ride BMX already, and they travel to the skate parks all around. Well, I ride with them too, because I still like to ride. Steven likes to ride. We just haven't gone out in a while. So I'll meet with them at the skate park and just be a part of the homies hanging out. Like, just encourage them, like love on them. Just be one of the guys there. Like, same thing. If they blow a tube mid-session, a lot of times it's like, well, I guess I'll pick up a tube at the shop tomorrow. Well, I got one in the car. Like, here. Like, I'm not just here, have it. Like, keep going. So, just a sense of like looking out for each other. There's a strong sense of community in the BMX culture anyways, is like looking out after everybody and just like being cool. So there's, concentric circles. There's the kids that I work with, trying to get them involved in community and like using BMX to kind of tie them together. Because when you give a group of kids bikes, they're like, let's go ride some bikes. Now they've got friends to go ride with, and it's not just like, oh, I've got this bike, I'm just going to ride around the neighborhood. It's like, no, they all got bikes. So I'm trying to build that to where they can just run with it. I don't have to be there to do that, right? And then long term, the goal, the dream is to build a indoor-outdoor bike park. So like a skate park, but like on steroids, like a much bigger facility. So think of like multiple acres, like maybe 7 or 9 acres. You have jumps in the woods, and then something inside to where when it's too hot or too cold, Texas climate is pretty brutal for, outdoor activities, that we can have space to ride. Everybody have space to ride, and that it's not a barrier for activity, and like have a nominal fee, like $2 to show up. Like, I'm trying to take all the burden off the table because BMXers are broke. There's no money in BMX, yet there's so much good in it. But we're trying to do the most with what we can. But in that facility as well, like building community, having potlucks, having the parents come in and be a part of what we're doing, like single dads or guys that are just, fatherless, and adult men that need help. There needs to be a place for them too. Like a day of the week where we're building ramps, like just come show up and hang out. Like, you don't even have to do anything, maybe there's no kids there that day because there's some guys, that can't maybe they've got a record and they can't be around kids. I don't know. There's hurting people everywhere, like trying to find a space for everyone to like come and be known and loved on, and give them something to do, especially men, give them something to do, like build ramps for kids. Like, I don't know anybody that wouldn't want to do that. So there's a lot to it. Like, it's tip of the iceberg. I mean, we could talk for 4 hours about this stuff and I wouldn't shut up. But like, that's my heart, my passion is to build something that is a place for kids to go, a place for community to be made. It's not about me. It's about having a place that exists. It's almost like Cheers, like minus the alcohol. It's like where everybody knows your name. Like, just show up and come hang out. Like, let's just do this. There's just so many barriers. Like, can't get insurance or like all this stuff. Let's just figure it out.
And
It's awesome.
I want to just call out one really kind of cool thing. I think, in this podcast, we talk a lot about purpose. And I think a lot of times the idea can be, even when Brandon, you're talking, like there can be people's minds can run with the vision that you're talking about. And we tend to have these grand visions. And one of the things that I really, really love is that when we reconnected and I caught the vision, but not the full vision, but just like the tip of the iceberg. I'm like, this is amazing. We could blow this out, right? And Brandon's like he had the wisdom and discernment to be like, no, like that's not it, right? And it was like humbling, like, because that's what I do. It's like, yeah, we're gonna grow this thing. And Brandon's like, the impact, and it made me go back to when we were kids. You made an impact on me, Brandon, at 15 years old that carried forward. When I became a Christ follower, in my mid-20s, I thought about you rent free. You were in my mind, and it was in that little interaction. We think we got to have this really huge purpose, but it's actually you just showing up and like changing a tube for a kid that needs an inner tube change. How much of a difference that can make in someone's life? Because multiple times in my life, your quiet voice has been the voice that's really, really the one I needed. That's unlocked the next thing that I needed to figure out. So
that's huge. Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah. To add on to that, Brandon, the Way Forward started out of a community that's just like what you're talking about. Like John Marshall, he's been on the podcast. I mean, super dear friend. He, it was about lifting weights, but the dude just created community. He just created a place where people could be known, where they could be comfortable. It was routine. And out of that, it's like deep bonds happen. And then who knows? And I just think, man, as we talk about purpose, so many times we think purpose, just like in the late 90s, you're like, it's got to be over there. Like it's got to be somewhere else. It's a place. And the reality is it's right here. It's in a relationship. It's using your gifts and the simplicity of that. And I think sorry, Nooner. So many entrepreneurs like us, it's like, we hear an idea and we just think about, man, how can we add on to it? And it's like, I think there's just beauty in the simplicity of, I've got a bike tire. Let me give you a bike tire. I'm going to show up and help you fix your bike. I'm going to buy a bike. I'm going to make it, workable, and I'm going to give it to you. And it's like, man, that makes so much bigger of an impact on that one kid. He feels seen. He feels loved. He feels cared for. And then who knows? So it's like, man, may your tribe increase. Like kudos to you and your faithfulness, that you're using your gifts, and you have something that so many people long for. It's like purpose in the daily moment, and they think it's somewhere else, and it's like, and you're just grabbing it right there. And so, in a lot of ways, I look across and I see a man, that I've got some jealousy of. Like, man, I wish I could just have some simplicity like that, and not get overwhelmed by the grandiose of things, and just enjoy the moment. So that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that story.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And it's, I still get overwhelmed about stuff. I think that aspect, that cycle of life continues, even in the simple times. Like, there's still things that we obsess over, become overwhelming. But you're right. Where is it? It's not a place. It's in a person, and that person is Jesus Christ.
Amen, brother.
Well, Brandon, if I could, I would love just that where you're at and what Todd and I are admiring and really celebrating this moment, and the John Marshalls of the world. It doesn't come without some sacrifice. So would you mind just sharing some of the things that you've had to give up in regards to stay in the zone that I've seen you walk through?
It's good.
Well, it's interesting. Like the first things that come to mind, I don't know if they were like given up or if the Lord's just removed them, and not remove them in like a malice type way. Like it's like, okay, well, we're done with that. The next season, the next lesson has to be learned without that, right? So that gets removed. Where like my approach to understanding that sort of thing has changed a lot. Where like I don't freak out as much. It takes longer for me to freak out, which should be descriptive of the season I'm in right now, because I got laid off from my corporate IT job that I was a part of for almost 10 years, that we moved here for, that was lucrative in that it paid for everything, and life for the most part financially was trouble free. And we're close to 2 years in on that. So it's not so much that was difficult right away, but the longer it, I think I heard from a preacher recently, it's not under the sharpest problems we have faith problems. It's under the longest duration of problems. It's the long haul that causes us issues. So long way around for that. But we're almost 2 years in. So I was unemployed for 6 months, and then Nooner and I found that it was just the right time for me to go back to work. So I started working for Stephen in June of 24. So a year and a half in, and all the things, money is all gone. There's whatever there was for retirement. I'm not by any means like a retirement savvy guy. Like there might have been enough in that our retirement accounts to like maybe buy a car. So there's no, I mean, it's a retirement account, but there's not retirement money in there. But like it's all just been liquidated. Like everything's gone. I'm back to a very day-to-day lifestyle, which I believe is on purpose. How do you become more dependent on God? Is when you can't depend on anything else. So, I think in our nation, our culture, like, fiscal independence is a big, for lack of a better word, a big idol. Like it gives us assurances that we can like do things. And so, when I'm assured I can do something, then I just believe in myself and move on, rather than like, well, I woke up today, God must have something for me. I don't know how it's going to work out, but he got me through yesterday. So Lord, help me today. Help me be in the moment. Help me to be faithful with what's in front of me. Like I start every day with that now. It's like, I didn't do that 15 years ago. It was just like, I'll wake up, do what I want, because I was able to. So I hope this is answering your question. There's just a lot more day-to-day dependence on, like, it's not it can't be about me, because I don't have anything left. Like everything that Brandon has is, on my person. So, we're at a place we wrestled with, what's the next move for us for a long time. Like we've got into this house and, built a workshop, and I have tons of tools and have always wanted a place to work on stuff and have tools. And so now I finally have all that. And now we're at a place where we're selling our house. And it's like, well, what's that all about? It's like, I have no idea, So like, what's next for us? I don't know. People, like, we're moving. We have to, like, there's no way around it unless God shows up and is like, here, I don't want you to move. Just stay where you're at. I mean, at this point, it's going to have to be like an Abraham and Isaac sort of deal. It's like, if he wants us to stay, then he's going to have to make it happen, because there's no visible way that I can see that's happening. What's next? I have no idea. So, I mean, I don't say that asking for anything. Like, I wanted nothing more than for people to pray, because I want this to be the season of life. And, it's probably not the smartest move. Well, worldly wise, definitely not the smartest move, but I have these things you call dangerous prayers, and dangerous prayers are the ones you're pretty sure that God's going to answer. So, I mean, I ask God, hey, like, that's kind of casual, but make this happen to where when it works out, there's no doubt in anybody's mind that you made it happen, not me. Not because somebody came in and was like, hey, I got this job offer for you. So, oh, Brandon finally got a job, and so now everything's better. He can pay for everything. It's like, I want it to be to where, even my unbelieving BMX friends are like, dude, what happened? And maybe that be an open door for them to hear about the gospel. And, like, part of my role, I believe, is to just be a soil tender. Like, you can't make things grow. Only the Spirit can do that, but you can prep the soil, right? You can build the fire, and then the Spirit can light it. But all that to say, I don't know where we're at. As a almost 50-year-old male with a family and a mortgage, like, it's kind of scary to say, like, you don't know what's next, but that's where we're at.
Man, I appreciate you sharing that. And I just, I didn't, there was certainly no expectation to go there from me, but I'm glad you shared it though. I mean, because to see, literally, I get to see you walk daily, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I see a peace that surpasses all understanding. And I've wondered the number of times where someone is walking really close with Jesus, and because my perspective of their lack of success caused me to encourage them in actually a way that would rob them of their peace. And
Mm-hmm.
so that, and then conversely, it made me wonder, are there any times that when something was removed that wasn't the way I wanted it to go, like that I misunderstood what was happening? So like I just appreciate you sharing that, because I think that there's some really, really hard to understand truth in there that I've seen you walk out in a way that's just been a witness. And so I'm grateful that you're sharing it in this format. So
Yeah. Oh, you're welcome. It's, it's part of the, stories that need to be told. Like, it's the nitty gritty of life. Like, it's the stuff that nobody talks about, because it's, nobody wants to feel like they can't do it themselves. Like, life's too short, man. I don't have the ego for that anymore. It's like, if I can't make it work, then that's how it is. Like, I'm not going to stress out. I mean, I stress out as much as the next guy. It's like, at the worst, like, worst case for us was like to sell the house. But then the Lord was like, well, explore that further. Push that all the way out. So I was like, all right, well, I started thinking about it. I was like, well, so what? So what, we have to sell our house? We're going to be homeless. So who cares? Like, it doesn't change anything. We're still a family. Like, God still has a plan, but that doesn't, we're not just going to starve and die. Like, it just doesn't work that way. Like, things at the very base level just work out, because that's just how it is. So I don't know.
Your vulnerability is refreshing. It's like
Hmm.
a drug we need that we don't know we need. And when you're around somebody that's vulnerable, it's just refreshing. It's
Hmm.
life. There's life in it. So I appreciate it, brother. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for being honest.
Yeah, that's where I live, I guess.
well, Brandon, if you would, I mean, I would love for you to just share where people can find you, learn more about BMX Local, what you guys are up to there.
Sure. So I have Instagram, and I have just Instagram. There's no Facebook. There's no part of that. And that's intentional. Part of that is so, you know, kids aren't on their phone, kids are on their bikes. Like, I don't want any more distractions. Like, I don't want reasons for people to be on their phones. So there's Instagram, and that's kind of like a personal / nonprofit. Instagram is pretty much all about BMX bikes. And that's at Lumpy BMX Local. But probably the place for anyone that's interested to see where we're at or what we're doing is the website. So that's bmxlocal.org. It's meant to be a place for parents and for people that are new to BMX or just want to see what we're about. It's a place for them to get a feel for not just what we're doing information wise, but kind of an aesthetic of like, you know, BMX is not this polished thing. Like, it's a community of just people that love to ride bikes. You know, that takes all kinds of people from different walks of life. So the website is the most important. You can find all my information there. To contact me further, email address, I think even my phone number's on there. We have a candid profile. We're on North Texas Giving Day. We're a registered 501c3 nonprofit. Got copies of background check if you need that, you know, sort of stuff. So I had to do that recently for volunteering for the ISD mentoring. So, but yeah, just check it out. Go support your local BMXer. Go find out what it's about. You know, a lot of people have seen BMX at trick shows, whether it's at a high school or at the state fair or, you know, anywhere, X Games. And I'm sure a lot of people are like, that's awesome. But they never draw a line to like, that could be a part of their life. Like, it's more like going to a museum and then trying to figure out that you can draw when you get home. Like, anybody can do it. There's, you know, you don't have to sign up and join a league like football. Just like go get a bicycle and go ride. Like, people just gravitate to you. If you're on a bicycle, it's crazy how many people you just find on a bicycle, you know, and everybody loves bikes. Like, I haven't met one adult male that didn't like bikes. Just go ride.
One of our first sources of freedom.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and Todd, you mentioned about like the impact you have over one person, just like being able to give them a tube. Like, the greatest joy has been, and I don't usually film stuff, like that's, my wife is a photographer and she's really good at it, so I just don't do that. But like, when we give bikes away, I've made it a point to video it because it is so impactful. Like, it almost makes me cry thinking about it. Like, you got these kids that are just hardened because their life at home just, you know, isn't great. You know, day to day, they're just struggling. But to give them a bike that works, that is like a legit bike, and they're just, that hard exterior just like fades, and they're just like, the word thank you comes off their lips. Like, I don't even know if I've ever heard that kid say thank you or a nice thing to anyone else in my life. But like, to have them turn to me and say thank you, like, it's crazy, man. Just makes so much difference. Like, why wouldn't we want to do that?
Love it, man. Love you, brother.
Love you too, man.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you guys for doing this. Like, this is a deal. Like, you guys, I know about y'all's book from conversations with Steven. Like, what a wonderful thing to take on the task of, you know, freeing people and getting them to live the way God intended. Like, what a blessing that's going to be. And so I'm stoked to be, you know, in some small way a part of it. I appreciate it.
Well, you're doing it, man.
Thanks
for sharing your story with us. Thanks for sharing your story with the world. Look forward to seeing you this summer on trail. Hey,
Yeah,
get that
it'll be a good
asthma
time.
out of here. It's time to get back on the mountain.
I know, it's killing me, man.
Let's go.
All right.
All right, man. Appreciate it.
Yep. Have a good one.
All right, you too.